Everybody, we have just finished day one out at Coeur d'Alene at Silver Symposium, and I'm joined by David Morgan and David Smith of the Morgan Report. Thank you guys for joining the program and jumping on with us.
Well, Rob, we're happy to be here and happy to have you here.
Well, happy to interview you guys. Looking forward to doing this in person. I think it's the first in-person conference we've done, and I don't know how long, maybe a couple of years. Yeah. So I think going very well. Lots of investors showed up. We had an evening dinner. It was fun. I want to get you guys' impressions of the conference so far.
Well, I think it went real well. The crowd was, COVID related, a little smaller than we might have expected.
Sure.
But it was serious, and everybody was attentive, and a lot of great questions asked. And
sure.
I think it was, for the size of the crowd, very impressive in that regard.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it started off with Jeff Clark, and Jeff had, I think it was a something boom. It's basically about the silver market paralleling where we are today,
right.
That all the fundamentals were extremely bullish, yet between 1974 and 1976, silver basically did nothing. And then he had some of his assistants go back on microfiche. Now you can look that up if you're 40 or younger, and look at what the record was in the financial press, and a lot of it came from the New York Times, talking rather derogatorily about the gold and silver markets, and anyone that thought that silver at that time $4 was going to 40 was out of their mind. And lo and behold, from 1976 to 1980, it didn't go up tenfold, it went up 12-fold. So I think it gave a lot of people in the room time to pause and consider that a daily price doesn't make the overall, projection something that you know ahead of time. But that silver is still very undervalued, and that people thought exactly the same way as they are right now. And look at what happened. Does that guarantee it'll happen in the future? No, because it's not going to go up 12 times. It's going up 24. No. But seriously, I think good times are ahead of us.
Yeah.
I hope he's wrong as far as the timing goes, but Rob, as you know, that's the hardest part of the business.
This timing.
It could be I think it's more like 2 or 3 years. But it could be 4, and it could be more than that. I really don't know. But the way things are unraveling, and I want you to say something, I just see an acceleration and a deterioration of not only the increase in money supply, we had like 20% in the last 𝙃𝙊𝙇𝙀𝙍 years, but the trust factor, the sentiment about the currency supply, I think is starting to be understood by more and more and more people. I think that's almost at the point of going exponential, not linear.
Yeah.
People say, people that don't think about economics say, "Hey, they can't print this much money. They don't know how much has been printed, but they can't print this much."
Right.
They're aware of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think we're having more of the younger crowd start to join the conference too. I talked to a young gentleman who is in commercial real estate, and essentially he's like, you know what, I'm getting into silver because I see the money printing issue. And he says through the commercial real estate business, because they're driving the property value so high that you can't operate the business, and people can't afford the rents on the commercial real estate. And so he's like, there's too much money in the system, and something has to correct. And so he came to the conference. He's one of Economic Ninja's followers. Brought him to the conference, and he's like, yeah, I'm totally into silver, because now I understand, what's going on in the economy. I know that we got, I need to get into an alternative investment. And for him, that silver, because it's what he can afford. And it's encouraging to see that. It's encouraging to see more people waking up, and I've been waiting for this forever. We've taught our kids about gold and silver just because, we're sort of a gold and silver household. But now they're teaching their friends, and so they come over and they want to talk, gold and silver, and instead of doing, the stocks and the other stuff, which they don't trust. They don't trust the stock market. Their parents are complaining about the property taxes and property value, so they're starting to stay away from that. And my kids and their friends are getting the age of where they're working and they have some money and they want to invest, and so we're starting to talk gold and silver. So for me, that's one of the encouraging signs, is to see some of the younger kids starting to attend these conferences, which I'm very encouraged by.
Yeah, just a few years ago we used to talk about that. How would we involve the millennials and Generation X in that? And the irony is that they've involved themselves. I mean,
That's
we've
right.
helped a little bit and given them encouragement, but it came out of the woodwork, and we couldn't have pushed on the string if they didn't care.
Yeah. I think maybe we worried a little bit too much about that, and we just had to do what we did, and they found their way to it, and probably that was a lot of us doing it and putting out the content and having that there for them to go look at. And Danny, who's my social media person, says, Rob, just put out the content. People will find you if they want you. And really, that's sort of been the secret to it, is we just keep doing what we're doing. And then I think people see interviews with David and yourself and, Economic Ninja and Wall Street Silver. And, so what we did, I think, did matter, and it does matter. And that's also encouraging. And we just need to keep doing what we're doing and be patient with it. And eventually, what we've all been talking about is eventually going to come true. And for me, what I'm trying to do now is I'm just trying to get the word to as many people as possible, to help as many people as possible. It's gone beyond, worrying about my own individual investments, and it's gone to how do we help the most people that we can. So whenever this reset finally does occur, we've got enough people into it that, maybe we can reduce some of the economic pain, and maybe, there'll be enough people who understand it that they'll have alternatives. Yeah.
And it's such an asymmetric nature because silver has been so mispriced for so long.
Yes, it has.
You look at the chart, and it's the only one on the chart of a metal that is not trading above its nominal 1980 highs. In fact, it's half of that. And when you look at iron, it's up 600 or 700% from that. And then here's silver at half, which arguably is a metal that's so crucial to modern life.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense, And like I mentioned today to the group, that everybody in this room knows the price of silver. All you have to do is look it up. Nobody, including yours truly, knows the value of silver.
That's right.
But we're going to find out, I think, rather soon.
And are you talking about just the nominal price of silver or on an inflation-adjusted basis?
Nominal.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it even worse,
It does.
Because if you say, well, silver is only 95 and inflation adjusted should be 140, that's a different game. But it's 28 or 24 now, and it should be 50, just nominal.
Right.
Well, I want to interject a little bit about my speech. Forgive me, but I said why silver's not money, because we got this kind of base. Silver's money is not. Well, the point I said was, look, here's why silver's not money. I said if you take the working Americans, it's 150 million working Americans. The average work day is 8 hours, and the average wage is about $27 an hour. So that's roughly an ounce of silver. 150 million times 8 is 1.2 billion man hours. So we only mine and recycle 1 billion ounces of silver. So think about this, people. We couldn't pay the United States workforce for 1 day in silver at this price. And then the next couple slides I went in to point out how long we've been on the silver standard. And the last time we were on it for 400 years. So if we were on a silver standard for 400 years, what's wrong with this equation? And what's wrong is the value is incorrect if you're using silver as money. Now, it's been demonetized for the last 140 years or so, and I get that. But my point is how undervalued it is, just as a commodity, let alone money. But if it were to be valued as money, it would have to be substantially higher. And that's one of the more difficult items to put across to people, that even if you don't want to consider it to be a monetary asset, which I believe it is, it doesn't matter. Palladium doesn't care if you think of it as money or not. The palladium isn't bought by investors as a store of wealth, but silver is. So I think, as you said earlier, Rob, once this acceleration starts, and as David has pointed out lately, it's not a linear function, it's exponential. Because those two kids that come to this conference that go back and tell 2, that tell 4, that tell 8, that tell 16, all of a sudden, you're going to see a silver spike, and I believe it's sooner than later. I do think we're about 2 years off, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's that, the communication that you do now hits people. It's all that stuff that doesn't get reflected in the price for years and years until you have a critical level of knowledge, and then people all come together and make that decision as a community without even know they're doing it. I mean, it's them and their friends, and then other people and their friends, and then people kind of make that choice, and then it just explodes all at once.
And they're not going to be looking at the charts and saying, well, I can't buy now because the chart isn't such and such, They're just going to do it.
Yeah. And I think this generation's very good. It's kind of the Bitcoin generation, the internet generation. When they see something that they like, they go right in. I mean, they're not shy about it at all. They'll make their investment, they'll take their position, and they they're very quick at making those decisions, very quick at picking up information. I'm just so impressed by the kids I see coming to these conference, and I say kids, I'm kind of young, but in their 20s, and they pick it up so fast, and they soak it up like a sponge. I saw a couple walking around today at the exhibit hall talking to people, and it's really encouraging to see that. I mean, once they make their decision on something, they get the information, take their position, they're in it, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, probably belaboring the point, but I did that Matrix video to try to encourage the millennials and the younger generation to appreciate value. Not even precious metals, which of course I'm very gangbusters over, but the idea of what is value. And when the Matrix, Morpheus says, the red or the blue pill, I use the metaphor, the silver coin or the blue Zimbabwe dollar. So you got reality, but once you get on that reality and wake up, you can't go back.
No.
And this was my message, and it's saying, or I'm the messenger. The message is out there for everybody. And I think I was more concerned, and you said it earlier, both of you, that the market just says this almost magical way of the truth cannot be held down. You can censor it, you can take stuff off of YouTube, you can take your Facebook channel down, but the truth marches on majestically. And these kids are waking up to the truth, and the truth is you can't get yourself wealthy, and they're starting to get it.
Yeah. I know we were talking before the video about $600 silver, so I don't know if you want to talk about that. But what's the thesis behind a potential $600 silver price?
Well, there's several. One is, the inflation-adjusted price of silver from the CPI index used in 1980 is 600.
Okay.
The other thing to do is everyone wants to know, well, what's the dollar price of gold? The dollar price of gold is extremely simple to find out. All you do is you take the base money supply, how many printed dollars are there, and you divide it by ounces of gold. It's a division problem you learn in second grade. It's this many dollars divided by this many ounces. If you do that math, it's $15,000 an ounce for gold. So now we know what the theoretical paper price of gold is. Now you got to determine the silver price. So now you got to play a little, logic game. You say, well, if it's money, then it's about 1/15 the price of gold. So with $15,000 gold, which, as Mike Maloney said, and I'm going to plug Mike, is that over time, that the money supply, the gold does an accounting for all the misprinting of the money supply. So that's the math.
Right.
That's the arithmetic. So now the monetary ratio is about 15:1, so 15 into 15,000 is $1,000 silver. So does that sound like out of your mind? I don't know. It's a fact. I just gave you the math behind it. Does that guarantee silver is going to 1,000 or goes to 15,000? The answer is no. But there's a more important part to this story that most people aren't aware of, and that is if you did the exact same arithmetic in 1980 and you took the base money supply and divided it by the amount of gold, it comes out to $400 an ounce.
Oh, wow.
And yet we went to $850, which says in a panic mode, when people understand that this inflation is in a runaway mode, the only thing that you can go to that's going to protect you, or one of the few things, which isn't a liability, not controlled by government, is gold and silver, it overshot. You could have actually gone a complete gold coin standard in 1980 at $400 gold. You could have priced it at $800 and gone back on the gold standard, and Nixon would have been right. We were temporarily off the gold standard and gone back. But no one thinks that way. Volcker, being the paper pusher that he is, that sold about half this nation's silver at 92 cents an ounce, came in and monkeyed with the interest rate. So you can tell I'm getting a bit hot under the collar. But this is the truth. And that's the math. So going back in time and saying that we overvalued the correct arithmetic of how much printed money there was versus ounces of gold, and it was twice that. What's to say in a manic, worldwide currency crisis that it couldn't do the same thing, and you could have $30,000 an ounce gold? I'm not saying you are. I'm just giving you the facts as they are, and we haven't seen the end yet, and I think it's going to be one for the record books. I really do.
I do too. I agree with you. I think it'll be sooner rather than later. We were talking about the mining stocks earlier. I know we had a good roundtable of cryptocurrency versus bullion, and we started talking about the stocks as well. So my theory is we don't have enough silver for everybody to invest in it now. It's used so much in mobile phones, medical applications, that if that monetary demand comes in, there's not enough silver. So the next place you go get it maybe is the mining stocks. So what's your view, David, on the miners? Are they a value in terms of the silver miners? Is that a good place to be in right now?
Yeah, I think it's a good place to be accumulating, and there are less than 24 primary silver miners in the world, because about 70% of silver comes from base metal production from these massive companies, that it's a rounding error for them because they do lead, zinc, and copper, you know. And the primary ones, and like Dr. Peter McGall says, there's no way, if you have an influx in demand, whether it's from industrial or investor or both, there's no way to ramp that silver up. The primaries can't do it, you know. And so I think they're, you know, choose carefully and choose people who've done it before and who have a record and of a success. Like, you know, Ross Beatty, he's done 14 different mining, and not all silver, but a number. He got Pan American Silver. It's a monster. He worth that, you know. And David was one of the early investors in that. I think, what'd you buy it, $1.09 or something? It's been 45 twice.
Oh my gosh.
You know. So he was so successful they called him the broken slot machine. You know. Out of 14 projects, 12 of them were 10 or 20x. You know, in terms of creating value for shareholders. So silver. Could you imagine how the silver miners will react if you see 3-digit silver? They're just going to go bananas.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that is. I don't know if we've ever seen that in history, have we? In terms of tripling the price of their base asset, they're all going to be in the money by a ridiculous amount. Especially the producers are just going to be literally printing cash.
Well, in 1979, Hecla Mines was the best performing stock in the entire New York Stock Exchange. It started the year at $5 a share and ended at $50 a share. So it was a 10-bagger, and no one could get enough Hecla Mines. So that shows you the kind of leverage you have with silver, of course, going exponential. And and this is on the topic of silver, but not on the stocks. One thing that's not very well articulated is that when silver hit the all-time high of $6 the ounce, January 1979, and went 1 year later up 800% to $50 an ounce, that it came down, but the overall average price for that year was 20. So what I want to do is think about this with you. Started at 6, which was the all-time high, made this spike high, and it came down, but it averaged 20, which was 300%, a little more than 300% of the all-time high that it took 14 years to achieve. So my idea here is the question that David and I get all the time. If this thing spikes, what's it going to look like after the spike? And the answer is, I don't know. But if it does something similar to what it did in 1980, let's say it launches off at, I don't know, starts going exponential at 50, and it goes to 150, and then it comes down and does an average price of, pick a number, 70, I don't know. The idea is that there will be, in my view, a new equilibrium, but that presupposes that this phony baloney monetary funny money printing fiesta is going to stay together, and I don't think it will.
I don't either. Thanks everybody for watching. Please like,
Share,
And subscribe
to the Morgan Report and Gold Silver Pros. Hey guys, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for updates. Also come to the website goldsilverpros.com and sign up for a free newsletter. We'll be attending the New Orleans Investment Conference October 19th through 22nd, where we'll be holding a very special private investor event. This is going to be invite only. We'll provide a sign-up link in the coming days. Stay tuned to the channel for more information, and save the date, 19th through 22nd in New Orleans.